The twin moons hung bright over the violet sky as the mating festival began on the alien world of Zerine. Music filled the air, deep drums and flutes that echoed through the jungle trees. Colorful lights floated above the crowd. Aliens from many tribes gathered in the wide stone courtyard, all dressed in bright cloth and body paint. It was a night of celebration, bonding, and choosing mates. But one girl sat all alone on a dark corner of the stone steps. She wore no paint. Her clothes were dull and old. Her silver hair was tied in a rough knot, and her green eyes looked down, afraid to meet anyone's gaze. Her name was Kari. She was just 19 in human years, still young by Zerine standards. But everyone in her village already knew her as the orphan with no bloodline. She had no family, no clan, no future. Others her age were laughing, dancing, showing off their glowing tattoos and strong bodies. Every now and then someone would glance at Kari, but only to whisper cruel things. "She's cursed," one male alien said. "She brings bad luck. Even her own parents died when she was born," another added. Kari heard every word. She lowered her head even more. Her heart felt heavy, and her chest hurt, but she didn't move. She wasn't here to be chosen. She just didn't want to stay hidden in her cave tonight. She just wanted to see others smile, even if she couldn't. That's when a stranger walked into the crowd. He was tall, pale-skinned, wore no tribal symbols. His eyes were blue like Earth's sky, and he walked with both curiosity and confidence. He was a human. The aliens watched him, with surprise and whispers. It was rare for humans to join such events on Zerine. Some elders looked annoyed, others looked amused. But the human didn't care. He walked around, smiled, and greeted everyone with a polite nod. He wasn't there to take a mate. He was just exploring. Then he saw her. Kari felt his gaze and quickly turned her face away. She expected him to walk past like the others, but the human didn't. He came closer. He sat down right next to her. "Hey," he said gently. "You okay?" Kari froze. Her throat felt dry. She slowly looked up. His voice was warm. His smile wasn't mocking. It was real. "You're not afraid of me?" she whispered. "Should I be?" he asked, raising an eyebrow playfully. She blinked in surprise. "They say I bring misfortune." He shrugged. "Well, I haven't had much luck either lately. Maybe we balance out." For the first time in years, Kari laughed. It was soft, like a broken bird song, but it was real. "My name's Jake," he said, offering his hand. She hesitated, then slowly placed her hand in his. "Kari." In that moment, the drums seemed to pause. All eyes turned toward them. Shocked, gasps filled the air. An elder stood up. "The human has touched the cursed orphan," someone shouted. "What a fool." Jake looked around, confused. "Did I do something wrong?" Kari tried to pull her hand back, but Jake gently held it. "You did something kind," she whispered, almost shaking. "They don't understand kindness." But something else happened. As their hands touched, a faint blue light began to glow from Kari's skin. Just beneath her collarbone, a small mark appeared like a glowing symbol pulsing softly. The crowd gasped again. Elder Doru stepped forward with a sharp voice. "That mark, it hasn't been seen for generations." Kari looked down at the glowing mark in fear. She touched it with her fingers. "What is this?" Elder Doru's eyes widened. "It's the mark of the ancient line. She was never just an orphan." Jake looked at her. "What does that mean?" Kari's hands trembled. I don't know. I swear I didn't know. But inside her something had awakened, something old, something powerful, and everyone saw it. The same people who mocked her now stepped back in fear. Jake tightened his grip on her hand and stood up. "Whatever. I've got your back." Kari looked up at him, eyes wide and wet. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her. Not out of duty, not out of fear, but because he cared, and neither of them knew. that this was only the beginning. Jake couldn't sleep that night. The soft jungle wind blew through the open window of the guest hut. Serene fireflies danced outside, glowing blue in the darkness. But his mind kept going back to her, Carrie. The way she sat alone, the pain in her eyes, and the strange glowing mark that appeared when they touched. He had seen a lot during his travels as a human envoy, but never something like that. Back on Earth, he was just a wanderer, a guy without a real home. But here, he had stumbled into something deeper. That girl wasn't just an outcast. She was something special. At sunrise, Jake returned to the courtyard hoping to see her again. But she wasn't there. Only a few early merchants and guards moved. About then, he heard a soft voice behind him. "You came back." It was Kari. She wore the same dull clothes, but her silver hair was freshly brushed and her cheeks had a bit of color, like she had finally dared to hope for something. Jake smiled. "Yeah. I figured we didn't finish our conversation." She looked down shyly. "No one ever comes back for me." Well, now someone has. They walked together along the edge of the jungle. Birds sang above them. For a moment it felt like peace, but Kari's voice dropped low. "You shouldn't stay near me, Jake. The mark, it means trouble. That's why the elders fear it." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Trouble how?" She shook her head. "I don't know. All I know is when my parents died, that same mark appeared on my baby skin. The village priestess tried to burn it off. They thought I was a bad omen." Jake clenched his fists. "They hurt you because they didn't understand you." Kari said nothing. Her silence was the answer. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed behind them. A group of tall male aliens approached, warriors with ceremonial armor and sharp stares. One of them, a scar-faced brute named Thorex, stepped forward. "So, the human thinks he can claim the cursed one?" Thorex sneered. Jake placed himself slightly in front of Kari. "I don't claim anyone. I'm just walking with a friend." "She's not your friend," Thorex growled. "She's a mistake. That mark should have been erased forever." Kari flinched. Jake stepped closer to Thorex, calm but firm. "Funny how all of you left her alone when she was harmless. Now you act tough just because something glowed." Thorex's fists tightened. "She's dangerous. So am I," Jake replied flatly. There was a moment of tense silence. Then Thorex spat on the ground. "She will bring ruin to our tribe, and you will regret your choice." The group turned and left, but not without giving Kari one last hateful glare. Jake exhaled slowly. "That guy needs a vacation." Kari's hands trembled. "Jake, you didn't have to stand up for me." "Yes, I did," he said gently. "I don't walk away from people who need help." She looked at him, eyes wide. "But why? Why me?" Jake smiled, not in a playful way, but in a warm, human way. "Because I see you. Not the mark. Not the rumors. Just you." Kari's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said something like that to her. She reached out, slowly taking his hand. Again and once more. The mark glowed, but this time it was brighter. The lines of the symbol stretched across her collarbone, wrapping like vines toward her heart. A pulse, gentle but powerful, rippled through the ground beneath them. Jake stumbled slightly. "What? Did you feel that?" Kari looked terrified. "This has never happened before." Suddenly, the village's warning horns rang out in the distance. Kari's face turned pale. "No. It's happening again." "What is?" "They're coming." Jake looked toward the horizon and saw ships, not Zerine ships, sleek, black, and silent, unmarked, moving fast. Kari grabbed his arm tightly. "They're not from this world. They've been searching for me. For years." Jake's breath caught. She wasn't just an orphan. She was being hunted, and now, because he stood by her, so was he. Night had fallen again, but the sky wasn't calm this time. Black ships hovered far above the jungle, silent and still, like hungry eyes waiting to strike. They hadn't moved since they appeared, and that made them more terrifying. The villagers locked their homes. The elders performed old protection chants, but no one dared speak Kari's name except Jake. He and Kari had taken shelter in an abandoned hut deep within the outer jungle, a place overgrown and forgotten by time. Inside, a small fire burned low as Kari sat curled up, arms wrapped around her knees. Jake sat beside her, his back against the wall, weapon by his side, eyes on the flickering shadows. "You're shaking," he said softly. Kari didn't look at him. "I feel them. I don't know how, but I feel them calling to me, like whispers in my blood." Jake glanced at her glowing mark, which now pulsed faintly every few seconds, like a slow heartbeat. "Do you think they're here for that?" he asked. Kari nodded slowly. "I think they created it. Maybe. They created me." Jake's eyes narrowed. "You mean the people in those ships?" She finally turned to face him. "Not people. Monsters." A cold silence filled the air. Jake leaned forward. "Kari, who are they?" Kari's voice dropped low, almost a whisper. "My mother once told me stories, when I was very small, about a race that lived beyond the known stars. They made life, but not like nature. They engineered it, mixed DNA, built creatures to fight their wars." Jake's blood ran cold. She continued, "They believed emotions made soldiers weak, so they erased love, erased family. But one of their experiments, me, maybe, was born wrong." Jake looked at her confused. "Wrong?" "I could feel. I cried, I laughed, I wanted to be held. They tried to destroy me, but someone helped me escape. That someone died saving me." Kari looked down, her voice breaking. "That was my real mother." Jake took a deep breath. "So, you're not cursed. You're a survivor." Kari looked up slowly, eyes wide. "You really believe that?" "Yeah," Jake said firmly. "Because I've met monsters, Kari. And you're not one of them." She blinked and tears began to roll down her cheeks. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "They'll erase who I am, make me into a thing, a weapon." Jake gently placed a hand on hers. "Then we won't let them." Suddenly the fire flickered violently. A cold wind rushed into the hut, though the door was shut. Kari gasped. "They're close." And then the voice came, not from outside, but inside the room, inside their minds. "Kari, Unit 47A, the others failed. You are the last. Return, or your protector dies." Jake stood up, grabbing his weapon. "Who the hell was that?" Kari clutched her head. "They've linked to me again. They're inside my brain." Jake raised the weapon and shouted, "Get out of her head, she's not yours." There was silence. Then the voice replied, colder than before. "She was never yours to protect." Suddenly the mark on Kari's chest shone bright blue. Her body lifted several inches off the ground. Her eyes glowed. She gasped, trying to breathe. "Kari!" Jake ran to her side and held her. "Fight it, stay with me." Her body trembled. The glow dimmed. Then she collapsed into his arms. Jake held her tightly. "You're okay. I've got you." Kari looked up weakly. "They're getting closer. They want me to submit, but I won't." Jake brushed her hair back. "Then we'll make a plan, and we'll fight." Kari nodded slowly. "I need to show you something. In the forest, there's a place. My mother took me there once. A ruin. It may hold answers. About them, about me." Jake helped her stand. "Then that's where we go." Outside in the sky, one of the black ships began to descend. Slow, silent, and deadly. But inside the jungle hut, something else was awakening too. Kari was no longer just an orphan. She was the key to something ancient. And the human beside her had already chosen his side. The journey to the hidden ruin was quiet but not peaceful. Jake walked ahead, weapon ready. Kari stayed close, wrapped in a dark cloak, her mark faintly glowing through the cloth. Strange bird-like creatures flew overhead, and the deeper they walked into the forest, the quieter everything became. Nature seemed to hold its breath. Kari pointed toward a wall of thick vines. Behind that, there's a doorway. Jake sliced. Through with his knife, and behind the vines was a stone arch carved with glowing lines, symbols Jake had never seen. As they stepped inside, the temperature dropped. The walls of the ruin were covered in ancient writing that shimmered when Kari passed by them. The air itself felt alive. In the center of the chamber stood a strange machine, half metal, half crystal, long untouched but softly humming. Kari stepped forward slowly. This is what my mother showed me. She told me if I ever needed to know the truth and to come here. Jake raised his eyebrows. And you're just telling me this now? Kari gave a nervous smile. I didn't think I'd ever trust someone enough to bring them here. Jake smirked. Well, I feel honored. She placed her hand on the glowing panel. The machine buzzed, then projected a soft light over her body, scanning, reading. Symbols danced in the air like floating code. Jake stepped back as a soft voice echoed from the machine. Female, calm, and ancient. Subject ID, Kari. Genetic, signature confirmed, warning, hybrid detected, bloodline, royal, codename, Project Luma. Kari gasped. Royal? Jake's jaw tightened. What the hell is Project Luma? The machine continued. Created by the ancients. DNA structure, 40% Zerine, 30% human, 30% unknown origin. Purpose, emotional intelligence weapon. Status, dormant. Powers locked. Jake's eyes widened. Wait, 30% human? How is that even possible? Kari stepped back, holding her chest. I didn't know. I thought I was just an orphan. Jake looked at her with new eyes. You're not just part of their experiment. You're connected to humans. That means someone from Earth, maybe hundreds of years ago, was part of this. Kari's voice shook. They lied to me. The elders. Everyone. The machine wasn't finished. Warning. Emotional awakening detected. Lock status. Breaking. Initiating personality release. Kari dropped to her knees. Her mark glowed bright blue, then purple. Symbols on the wall flashed like lightning. Jake, something's happening. I can feel other voices inside me. Jake grabbed her shoulders. Hold on, don't let it take you, Kari screamed, but not in fear, in anger. A powerful wave of energy blasted outward, shaking the ruin and sending dust falling from the ceiling. Jake fell back, shielding his eyes. When he looked up, Kari stood tall, glowing eyes, hair floating as if in water. She spoke, but it was not her voice. Protocol unlocked, prime abilities activated, all threats will be neutralized. Jake shouted, Kari, it's me, don't lose yourself. The light around her flickered, unstable, then dimmed. She fell forward into his arms, unconscious. Silence returned. Jake held her tightly, breathing hard. You're more than a weapon, Kari. You're a person. Don't forget that. The machine hummed softly once more. Human detected. Biomatch 87% compatible with Project Luma. Emotional anchor confirmed. Jake froze. Wait, what does that mean? You are the key. She chose you. His heart pounded. She what? If she bonds with you fully, her power will awaken, but so will her enemies. Jake stared at the machine, then down at Kari in his arms. She trusted me, and now I have to protect her. From everyone. Outside the ruin, the jungle began to shake. The sky above rumbled. The black ships were on the move, and they had found her. The ground trembled beneath Jake's boots. From the entrance of the ancient ruin he could hear engines, deep, silent hums that didn't belong to anything natural. The black ships were no longer watching. They were landing. Inside, Kari was still unconscious in his arms. Her glowing mark had faded, but her skin was cold with energy still flickering under the surface. She had unlocked something powerful and dangerous. Jake looked around the stone chamber. No exits, no secret doors, just one way out, the path they came in. He gently tapped her cheek. "Kari, wake up, we've got company." Kari groaned, then opened her eyes slowly. Are they here?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, and we're not going to wait for them to knock." He lifted her to her feet. "Can you run?" I think so." They moved fast, back through the jungle trail. Branches snapping underfoot, birds flying out of the trees. But as they neared the clearing, Jake froze. A shadow passed overhead. One of the black ships hovered low, blocking the sun, scanning the trees. Kari grabbed Jake's arm. "They'll find us. They always do." Jake pulled her behind a thick tree trunk. "Not if we outsmart them." Just then a blue beam hit the ground where they'd been a second earlier. The air sizzled. The dirt smoked. They ran, through vines, over fallen logs, dodging roots and branches until they stumbled into an old service tunnel, metal and rusted, hidden behind jungle growth. Jake slammed the door shut behind them. Silence. Only. Their heavy breathing echoed through the dark. Kari leaned against the wall. "Jake, you didn't have to stay with me. You could have walked away." Jake looked at her. "Kari, I didn't just choose to stay. I want to stay. You're not just someone I'm protecting. You're someone I care about." Her eyes shimmered, but before she could answer, a mechanical voice echoed through the tunnel. "Project Luma detected, exit blocked, prepare for capture." Jake raised his weapon. "They're already inside." From the shadows, robotic shapes stepped forward. Tall, thin machines with glowing red eyes and silent feet. Kari whispered, "Trackers. They're here to disable me. Or kill." Jake didn't hesitate. He opened fire. Blue energy shots lit up the tunnel. Sparks flew. One tracker exploded. Another dodged and lunged, claws out, but Kari stepped forward, her hand glowing. She raised her palm, and a burst of force sent the bot flying into the wall with a crash. Jake stared. "Whoa." Kari blinked. I didn't mean to do that." Jake smiled. "Don't worry, that was awesome." But more footsteps echoed behind them. Too many. Jake looked around. "We won't survive a fight in here. We need to go underground." Kari pointed to a side hatch. "There's a drop tunnel. It connects to the old escape paths the priests used long ago." They crawled through the hatch and slid down a steep metal shaft. Lights flickered. The sound of falling water echoed somewhere below. When they landed, the air was cooler, quieter, safer, for now. Kari collapsed against the wall, exhausted. "Why are they doing this? Why chase me for so long?" Jake knelt beside her. "Because you're not what they wanted. You're better. You weren't meant to love. But you do. You weren't meant to think for yourself. But you chose me." "That scares them." Kari looked into his eyes. "Do you really think I chose you?" Jake smiled softly. "I don't care how your DNA sees it. I believe you made that choice." Kari's hand trembled as she reached for his, and just like before, her mark glowed, not out of fear, but warmth. Connection. You are the key. Emotional anchor confirmed. The voice echoed again in her mind, but this time it wasn't cold. It felt welcoming. "I think I understand now," Kari whispered. "I'm not just their creation. I'm something new. Something they can't control." Jake squeezed her hand. "Then we fight together." Far above them, the black ship circled the jungle, searching. But for now, Kari and the human who chose her had vanished into the forgotten tunnels below, and the real war had only just begun. The tunnel walls became smoother the deeper they went, less like a jungle ruin and more like something built for a purpose long forgotten. The air was thick with old energy. The symbols on the walls began to glow again, not blue this time, but gold. Kari felt it in her bones. Something was calling her forward. Jake walked beside her with quiet focus, flashlight in one hand, his free arm gently steadying Kari when she stumbled. Though exhausted, she felt stronger than before. as if the truth was fueling her legs. Then they reached it, a chamber unlike the others. The walls were carved with alien art, images of beings creating life-guiding stars and watching worlds rise and fall. In the center stood a tall crystal pillar, cracked but still glowing faintly. Kari approached, her fingers tingling. As she touched the pillar, a hum rose from the ground. Lights swirled above her and formed a holographic figure. It was a woman, Zerine, in shape, but her presence was larger. Her body shimmered between alien and human features. The voice that came from her was soft, ancient, and full of sorrow. "Daughter, if you are seeing this, then they have returned." Kari froze. Jake stepped closer. "Is that your mother?" The figure continued. "You were never supposed to awaken this way. You were created as a bridge between the creators and the created. Not a weapon, but hope." Kari's eyes widened. "Hope? We called you Project Luma, the last light. They feared you because you could feel, because your soul could choose love over duty." Jake looked up at the figure. "Who are they?" The answer was chilling. "The Architects, a forgotten race, who once ruled the stars. They built life for control, but one of them betrayed the system. Me. I took the forbidden step. I gave birth to you, with a human man." Kari gasped. "A human?" Jake's heart skipped. "He was a traveler, a man of Earth. He taught me laughter, taught me choice. They tried to erase him, but you survived. You are the proof that two worlds can become one." Kari fell to her knees, tears rolling down her cheeks. "All my life I thought I was a mistake. But I'm part of both?" "Yes, and now they are coming to erase the proof," Jake whispered. "That's why they hunted her. She represents something they can't control." The image flickered. "You are more than their creation. You are a queen in the making, but your power only awakens through choice, through true connection." Kari looked at Jake. "You were chosen, not by my DNA, by me." Jake knelt beside her. "And I choose you, too. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The crystal pulsed. Then, like a key turning in an ancient lock, Kari's chest mark glowed bright gold. The air shifted. Her body rose a few inches off the ground, calmly, peacefully. Not as a weapon, but as something complete. When she landed, her eyes were brighter, her voice more steady. "I remember now," she said. "Not just the pain, but who I am." Jake stared, stunned. "You've changed." Kari nodded. "I'm no longer just Kari, the orphan." She walked to the wall and placed her palm against an old console. The ground shook. Behind the wall, a long buried hangar lit up. Inside, a ship rested, a design unlike anything in the galaxy. Sleek, curved, glowing softly. A legacy ship. "The Architects will come for me," Kari said. "But this time we go to them." Jake smiled. "Lead the way, Your Highness." She turned to him, surprised, then laughed, a sound of pure joy. But above them, far in the sky, the Black Fleet had stopped circling. They had found what they were looking for, and they were preparing for war. The stars above Zerine began to vanish one by one, blotted out by the arrival of the Architect fleet. Hundreds of black ships filled the sky like shadows swallowing the light. No warnings, no messages, no mercy. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase history again, but they were too late. In the heart of the jungle, the hidden hangar roared to life. Blue light surged across the ground as vines and dust pulled back, revealing a sleeping giant. The Luma Core, a starship forged for one purpose, to carry the last hope of two worlds. And she was awake. Kari stood at the center of the ship's control deck. Her body was calm, her eyes clear. No longer afraid, no longer confused. She wore a smooth suit woven from the ship's nanofibers, white and gold, with her glowing mark fully visible on her chest. Jake stood beside her, in the co-pilot seat, still dressed in rough gear, gripping a control stick like it was just another ride. But he knew this was far more than that. Kari turned to him. "Are you sure?" Jake smirked. "I didn't come all this way just to watch from the ground." She smiled. "Then let's show them what choice looks like." The ship rose from the jungle, fast and smooth, breaking through the clouds like a phoenix. The architect fleet shifted, now aware that their target was airborne. Dozens of enemy ships turned to intercept. Inside the Luma core, Kari raised her hand. The ship responded not just to buttons but to her thoughts, her heart, her will, and her will was strong. The core fired beams of golden energy, not to destroy, but to disable. Each blast knocked out systems without killing. She didn't want blood. She wanted freedom. Jake watched in awe. "You're not fighting like them." Kari nodded. "I don't have to. I'm not one of them. Not anymore." But then something changed. The largest architect ship moved. It opened, a massive black maw. And from within, a voice rang out. Not just in sound, but in thought. "Luma, return now, or we erase your anchor." Jake winced, clutching his head. "They're talking to me." Kari's voice sharpened. "Let him go. He is irrelevant, a temporary bond. You are the weapon, not the mate." Kari stepped forward. "He's not a bond. He's my choice, and I choose to be more than what you made." The voice laughed. "Then watch him fall." A beam fired from the enemy ship, one too fast for any system to stop. Kari screamed, "No!" But Jake moved first. He leaped in front of her, taking the hit meant for her heart. The ship trembled, the console sparked. Kari caught him as he collapsed. "Jake, no. No, no, no." He smiled weakly. "Hey, worth it." Kari sobbed, tears glowing like fireflies. But then something new happened. The ship pulsed with light. Not gold, but white. A surge of pure energy radiated from her chest into him, her mark shining and his chest answering. Another mark appeared. The same one. The Luma core recognized it instantly. Bond confirmed. Dual sync achieved. Mating anchor complete. "System override engaged," Jake gasped, breath returning. The wound reversed before Kari's eyes. He looked up at her. "What just happened?" Kari cried and laughed at once. I chose you so hard the universe had to listen." The architect fleet began to shatter, not from attack, but from within. Their systems failed, their minds confused. They could not process love, choice, unity. Kari and Jake held hands as their ship rose higher, now glowing brighter than any star in the sky. The architect command ship cracked, crumbled, and fell. The war ended, without a single death. Because one human made a choice, to love the girl no one else wanted, and she chose him back. Epilogue. Years later, stories would be told across the galaxy about the orphan who was supposed to be a weapon and the human who saw a girl worth saving. They built a home not just for themselves but for others like them. Misfits, outcasts, hybrids of heart and soul. And in the center of their homeworld stood a statue of two figures. Hand in hand, facing the stars. Carved below it were only 5 words. She chose, and so did he.